This lesson is on solving quadratic equations by factoring. Let's start this lesson by looking at the goal of the lesson. So, when I factor a quadratic equation, I should get something kind of along these lines. I have like x's and these numbers in parentheses. I should get something that looks like this, and we'll see how to get there soon. But the importance of having this is that it's the idea of what two numbers multiply to give you 0. The only way any two numbers can multiply to get you 0, like this number and this number, the only way they can multiply to get you 0 is if at least one of them is 0 themselves. So in order for this to be 0, either that has to be 0, or also this could be 0. As long as one of these is true, this works. This means x could be A or x could be B. And these are the solutions to this expression. Now the question is just, how do we get to this expression? Where I can say so simply x is A and x is B. This relies on factoring. First, let's say I FOIL this out. If I FOIL it out, first terms multiply for that, then I have the outer terms multiply, then the inner terms, and finally the last. So this quadratic equation is the same as this one. With one of these, it's really easy to determine the solution. X is A and x is B. With the other, it's a little harder. And usually you're going to be seeing this harder one and having to express it in terms of the simpler one. You can also notice here that I have these x's together. I'm going to group them together really quickly. Now notice how these numbers a and b, when they multiply, they give me the constant. And when they add, they give me the term that's being multiplied by x, the coefficient of x, also known as the linear coefficient. This makes solving quadratic equations so much easier. Let's go with an example really quickly. If I say x minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. Well, the number 2 is equal to, let's say, 1 times 2. Similarly, the number 3 is equal to 1 plus 2. And just like that, I know my solutions to this. X could be 1 or it could be 2. You could even try plugging these numbers back into your expression and seeing if it works. If I plug the 1 back in, I get that 1 squared, which is just 1, minus 3, 1 minus 3 is negative 2, plus 2 is 0, which works. And if I try again with 2, that says that 4 minus 6 plus 2 is equal to 0, which is also true. So this works. Just like that, I've come up with solutions to this quadratic equation. There's also something interesting to note here. You may have learned in Algebra 1 also a bit about factoring trinomials, because a quadratic is really just a trinomial. At least as long as you have a linear term and a constant term, which we do in this case. Anyway, the special thing is that this is also true. It gives me sort of different results, but if I use this on my equations, I would get the same solutions for x. The most important difference is that x would be negative a and negative b, instead of just positive a and positive b. It just has to do with how you write it. You may think it's easier to remember with the plus signs, because they're just plus signs everywhere. The only issue is once you put it into this expression, you have to take the opposite of your a and b values, and that'll give you what x has to be to solve the equation. So while this may be slightly different than what you may have learned in Algebra 1, we're going to stick with this convention because it's really fitting when we try to solve quadratic equations. So, as a quick recap, the solutions to this quadratic equation, which we know to be a and b, they must multiply to give you your constant and add to give you the opposite of your linear constant or linear coefficient. So they multiply to give you one of the numbers, and they add with a minus sign to give you the other number. Thus sums up this lesson, so please be sure to check the examples for more on solving quadratic equations by factoring.